So the 1888 and or the 25 into the 7 shows you that this is a hoax. The pyramids are a hoax. All right. First off, they're not pyramids, being that they have a flat top. They are oblong cubes. But besides that, they're not thousands of years old. In fact, they're only a couple hundred years old. I'm putting them somewhere in the late to mid 1700s when they were built. The 1888 code gives it away, going in the 25 or the 7, which brings up the 1776 code, going that King George is in fact George Washington. You do know that, right? That then brings in the idea of the hoax revolution, also bringing in the idea of the dollar bill with the unfinished pyramid on the back. So that bringing this in the 1700s. And that's right where I say this is. This would be, who built this? This would be built by armies, starting with the French army, when that was taken from the what would be called the Ottoman Empire and or brought into the West. I understand that most people observe or believe it to be a Muslim nation, which it is in fact religiously or culturally, but it has always been a outpost of the West, going back to the idea of the Library of Alexandria, that hidden knowledge, that idea of 1776, which it in itself is a hoax as well. All right? So then look at this. This is all contrived. Look around. You can see that they wrote one layer, they kind of smeared it out, and then they wrote on top of another layer with, it looks like almost the same hand. In fact, a lot of the cursive you can see is the same person writing it. You can see that. So then moving forward, you can go back even to the drawings talking about the battle of the pyramids, or battle at the pyramids, the so-called. Okay, so then the painting of the famous battle of the pyramids should look very similar to what you're used to seeing, right? The Giza Plateau, and that looks nothing like it. That looks something somewhere. I don't know where that is. Has nothing to do with Egypt, not as far as I know. So then how do I know that it's been contrived and it's nothing more than a modern day, and when I mean modern day, a couple hundred years old max. One, going through just the idea that they're always putting it into your modern day mind with the idea of the World War II, the Rommel, the battles in the desert, that then romanticism with the desert, then bringing in that tourism of that century, in fact, which they tried to re-spark, if you recall, in the 70s with the Tutankhamun boy king nonsense going around LA, of many places, the major cities, showing that junk to everyone and getting everyone wanting to go get into pyramid power at the time in the 70s, and drink your tab and put a pyramid on your head. So you can see that the so-called, in quotes, Great Pyramid, nothing more than a construct and an amusement, is in showing in reality not that big of a building. I understand everyone wants to tell you that it's huge and that these guys say these bricks were so big and these stones. Nonsense. You can actually see that these so-called photos from the 1800s are two photos in one. You can see, just like the Trinity hoax nukes, that those are two photos, one super transposed on top of the other. All right, period. The magical Giza Plain is what I call it, because this almost seems to be an artist's rendering of what they want it to look like when it's finished, to me, because it's slightly off from the finished product. All right. There's too much junk. There's not enough junk. There's too much junk and there's not enough junk. It just doesn't match with what they're showing you today as being the modern day plateau. And of course, people say, "Oh, it got buried in no, gibberish." I'm about to show you some of that stuff that supposedly got buried and uncovered, and you tell me if that's thousands of years old. All right. Oh, but before we leave, one of my favorite old photos, always from a long distance, and to show you, a different angle. That, of course, these have been around forever. Just ask the local people; they've always seen them, right? This is yet another composite photo where you can see that the two planes, and I'll be doing a video actually pretty soon in the next week on taking pictures and leveling and that type of thing. Anyways, you can see that this forward picture coming up to the tree line, beyond the tree line, is not level with the image in the background, the so-called pyramids. Also, there appears to be an extra pyramid there. Where to go, You see that one right next to the tree there? Well, because the three others, the little three small ones, should be over here to the far left. See, they screwed this one up. Must have been a composite drawing. Okay, here's all they did, man. You can see this is nothing more than a standard rock outcropping, which is what these pyramids were based on. They were just based on this standard rock. They then just uncovered the rock, you can see that this is a manufactured head they put on there. Manufactured head. They put that on, they uncover this natural rock, and then they show you this. Let me show you what they did. Okay, so take a look at this. This is ridiculous, man. So then they cover up the so-called paws with nothing but artwork. And you're supposed to assume that that's a sphinx. And they have people like Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock and idiots like Rentz and Art Schmel and George Snorri putting out the story that this is a sphinx. This is nothing more than a sandstone sculpture, which they created a couple hundred years ago, max. And this is just recent, these paw things. That's very recent. Look at that ridiculousness. This is a sideshow. It's an attraction, and I'm going to even show you more evidence of that. Here they go, moving an entire temple. Now you can tell you can look at that and see that that's not old. You can see that that's newly manufactured junk being put together by the numbers. Can't you? That's not ancient. That's not thousands of years old. That's lucky if it's a couple months old. More great evidence. Oh, luckily the paw that's shown, right, has been honed. And the one that's on the other side, look, even though it's supposed to be exposed, it's not even there, man. It's all made up gibberish. It's all gibberish. Look at the stone, man. You can see it's just sandstone. All right, moving on to more proofs of this amusement park. Going into the idea of the chevrons, as soon as I saw that, I said that's cathedral work. That's 1800s cathedral work right there. I'll go ahead and put a pillar from an English chapel up, and you'll see that it's the exact same Masonic angles. Same thing. Look at this layout. Just look at it now that you've seen. Just look at the layout. You look at the sandstone sphinx. You can see that that's just been cut out of the ground because I showed you those earlier pictures, right? Well, none of the stuff was even there. Yet that's above the level, right? And they're supposed to have dug that out, right? Nonsense. And you're supposed to just tell me that all the local people just sat around why over hundreds of years these different people came from around the world to rediscover the pyramids. And in the intermission between those times, the local people just, hid up in the trees. Right? Tricky Dick. Back to the 1888. This is a joke. Look at this. Look, that it's barren wasteland. It's nothing more than an attraction, a roadside attraction. built 100 years earlier, and these guys were just trying to bring it back into vogue. Strike a pose, man. You can see that that's not ancient. All right? They took sandstone, they carved it, they made it look like big bricks. They told you it weighed a ton of shit and that nobody could move it, not even with the most advanced technology ever. It's all a song and dance, man. That's all you're ever going to see. Don't tell me, and hey, listen, all of a sudden, just so happens that just down the boat path, I can get you those cruise tickets, a couple $100, no worries. Oh, we have plenty of other little temples too that just so happen to be in the perfect little spot for you. And of course, through time, we had all this manual labor, all these armies. This would be the 11th Australians. All these guys got to, help the locals out and dig out their culture, right? When it's nothing more than they were just digging out the production. This stuff's produced locally and recently. Look at that. It's not thousands of years old. It's gibberish. All right? Now, I'm speaking about the Giza Plateau in this video. There are what is called pyramids, which are in fact not pyramids, but they are called that. And they are not these structures. These are carnival attractions. You can see that's cathedral architecture. If there's any pyramids at all, they will be these tiny small ones, and those are dotted throughout Egypt. And they're not nowhere close to what you're looking at with these three Walt Disney productions. And these other ones are crumbling because they're made of sandstone. All right, because the ones inside that have the granite and the hard rock, that doesn't crumble, jokers. So that's been moved in and it's been honed and it's been laid by masons. And they sold you a bill of goods for a couple 100 years now. All right, because I'm putting the fact that these things were made somewhere in the 1700s. All right, a couple 100 years old max. Period. All right, they were built to look like this. That's why they look so ridiculous now. All right, enjoy. Have a great time. All right. The pyramids are a hoax, a roadside show, a carnival attraction, nothing.